Hey, thanks for showing up today. Today's show is going to be fantastic. You're going to be joined by Toni Kaufman. She's going to teach you speaking techniques. If you want to sell on stage, if you want to sell on the platform, and if you want to bring in millions of dollars doing sales from the platform, then stay tuned. Enjoy the show. If you like it, please make sure to like this and make sure to share it with your friends. Hey, they want to learn how to speak and make money too, right? Also, subscribe to the channels and also click that notification so you will always be notified when we do another drop. All right, Toni, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. How do you want to kick this off?
Well, you were going to ask questions and then you send me some notes. So, I mean, I'm ready either way you want. So make sure I can share a screen with your permission so that I can talk about a little thing, a couple of things. And we can start off with the first question. How's that?
All right, cool. Well, you know, as I let everybody know, I mean, your talents are all the way from technology to speaking and everything in between. And just a little fun fact that I got to learn about Toni for everybody, because I'm sure you might have questions. Since anytime we shake our AI booty, everybody comes to the dance, right? So Toni actually is also an expert in AI. She's produced a book, which we're going to share with you a little bit later, for you to go and follow her and find the book and the things that she's teaching. But what I told her, the topic that I thought would be right on point, is the speaking topic, because again, we got to land clients, and why not do one-to-many, right, Toni?
I absolutely love it. And it makes so much sense. So let's start off with one of my favorite topics, which is you never know who's watching. And I know it sounds weird, but there's a reason that I always start off with that. And that is basically, I learned that if you just concentrate on what you're doing, be the best at, invest the time, do the practice. You know, I did learn that people that do TED and TEDx talks practice 1 hour for every 1 minute, and they only get 15 to 17 minutes to say their talk. So, I mean, that's what's required from a TED or a TEDx talk. So you now see that there's a lot of practice involved, and the more the merrier, and the more the better. So I love starting off with that, because that's really what it takes. It's familiarity with what you're going to be talking about, which makes you the go-to expert, which gives you the credentials, which gives you talk with integrity. And that kind of always sets the stage, because people are either going to like you or not like you in the first 7 seconds that you're on the stage. So as of right now, I can tell you that some people here are like, what? Who is this person? And some people are like, oh, she's really good. Let's keep going. So, you know, that's the way that it works. It's all about the charisma. It's all about you. It's attracting your audience. You and I had a conversation on what your audience looks like. You sent me samples of your show. I wanted to cater it more and more and more. And folks, I'm very interactive and I'm very informal. So Elena, if you've got a question, just pop it into the chat. Kevin Davis, if you've got a question, just pop it into the chat. We'll address it. We can keep going, and I go pretty fast too. So I've actually gotten better in my old age, but there are times when I just kind of take off, and if I lose you, come back and say, whoa, slow down. I'm also from Texas, so you can say whoa and slow down. That's okay.
Oh.
Whoa.
Yeah, you're dead on, Kevin. He says what we're going to be learning today is also key for individual one-on-one conversations too. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Because I mean, that's the power of selling. So if you want me to focus on selling as a strategy, speak to sell. I mean, that is a whole workshop that I do for 3 days, and I do it in Austin, Texas. And we're going to be having that one in February. So you're welcome to come. And I do it very different than most people. I will actually send you a 66 questionnaire, 66 question questionnaire, and you get it. And most people write me back and go, are you nuts? What am I doing here? What they don't understand is that those questions lead them into the 5. And you know what? I'm just going to give you guys a $15,000 course. Is that okay?
Let's do it.
Are you okay with that, guys? Yeah. All right. All right. The $15,000 course is all the same way. And you're going to have these 5 steps, whether you do this for 5 hours, 3 days, 5 minutes, it's the same talk. So that's what the 66 question does. It turns each of the 5 sections into questions and answers. Then I turn every single one of your answers into a slide. And then we, as you can imagine, each slide looks like we're paraphrasing the Bible, right? So then what we do is I take each slide and then work with you to cut it down to 7 words. because I believe I was on the PowerPoint original design team. I hate death by PowerPoint. I hate it emotionally and irrevocably. We want to get 7 words or a picture of what you're trying to say. People don't want to read slides. They want to feel what you're trying to tell them. So Maya Angelou said it best. People are not going to remember what you said or how you said it. They will remember how you made them feel. So that's my haiku method of PowerPoint that we also dive into. $15,000 class. You got a pencil handy? Intro, story, pain, solutions, offer. That's your signature talk. If
Derek,
you're doing a speak to sell, oh, go ahead, Damien. I'm sorry.
I was saying, Derek, pop those in the chat for me. Repeat those
Okay.
real quick.
Intro, story, pain, solutions, offer. Now, if that's a signature talk, if you're doing a speak to sell, we twist it a little bit. It's intro, story, offer, pain, and solution. See, the little bit of a difference, but it makes a difference in how you're approaching your public, right? And what you're doing is you're getting away from those horrible, nasty little, but wait, there's more closings, right? You're going to ask them for permission. Is it okay with you if, by the end of today, I make you an offer to work with me, or I give you a call to action, or I give you a lead magnet, or I give you a free this or a free that, so that we can explore what we can do. Now, I want everybody to relax right now. I'm not selling you a thing, okay? That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help you, and we want to bring value. And Damien is very, very on point by saying we just got to bring value. So let's start there. You never know who's watching. The reason I say that is because I had no idea that as I was an entrepreneur, I had a $27 a month bold ad in the yellow pages. That tells you how old this is. And I started at a Microsoft training center back in the early 80s. I immersed myself into Windows, and we didn't even have Office, and we just had Excel and Word. Right, PowerPoint wasn't even invented yet. So I created that, and then every Saturday I would go to like the Office Depots, the Bismarcks, and I would give a 1 hour free a talk on how to use Windows. And that was some of the best stuff I ever did. I ended up getting Exxon, I got Coastal, I got, at that time Enron. We had quite a few because I was in Houston. I'm still in Houston. But we got a lot of business just from giving away free seminars at the Office Max. And that's how I created my business. Within 18 months, I got corporate contracts, and we created a $3.2 million training corporation in Houston, Texas. I evolved from just training to help desk to support and development on each of those markets. And Microsoft was recommending us as a certified training center, and I was a certified professional, and I was a technical evangelist for them. So they got big accounts, and they would recommend us. We would go in there, do our job. I would convert the heathens, and I would, bring them back to the new religion of Windows, Word, and Excel. So that was my job, is to just go out there and preach, right? So that's kind of what I want to bring to the table. And the reason I say you never know who's watching is because that's what led, without me knowing a thing, to me being selected. And this is the lunch that I was taken to by the CTO of a major corporation in Houston. Said, Toni. And I said, yes, sir. He says, I've been tasked with selecting the best computer trainer in the United States, and we selected you. And I said, oh my gosh, okay, thank you. And my job was to head the transition team to bring former President Bush back home after the election where he lost to Bill Clinton, right? So we're bringing him home to Houston. So it was my job to, do the cybersecurity, make sure the tracking was right. We had the top floor, the 9th floor was for the Secret Service, the 8th floor was his office. We also took care of his home, in the new home in Houston, the library in College Station, and Kennebunkport's home, which had to be rebuilt after a hurricane, by the way. So we were in charge of just making them feel home, but safe. And yet he really loved his new little laptop. But every time I'd sit with him, he would say stuff like, okay, Toni, we had 10 minutes. What's this button for? That's the kind of training we did. And most executives have 10 to 15 minutes. You have to fit it in. So that's why I say you never know who's watching, because all I was in charge of was doing the best I could at the training, at the development, at the support, at the help desk. And we were, we were working our buns off at that point. There was many late days. And that's what happened, is that's why I always say, always do your best, always lead with integrity, always be credible, and just try to help others. So once again, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them into the chat, and we will follow through. So that's why I start off with that talk, Damien. It's just to ensure that that what you do and how you do it, and your follow-up and your customer service, which you're amazing at, Damien, is something that I absolutely love. And I think that's why we gelled, in Cabo together, because we have so many of the same types of basic fundamentals that we believe in. So, okay, go. Next question.
All right. So, most of those, as I explained to you, that are here joining us today or tuning in, have they're in the business of digital marketing. They're offering digital marketing to businesses. And as you heard, I much rather than be in front of 200 or 300 dentists than just one at a time. So get that person who's on here now, that person ready to go and feel comfortable about getting up there with 200 people to sell what they know. They already know the product. Assume they already know the product, right? You got to know your product. And then it's all the other stuff that we just don't know. And how do we prevent from, the typical speaker nightmare problems?
Exactly. So this is good. So again, we talked about practice. We talked about, getting your story together. And by the way, guys, that is the #1 way to get people to absolutely adore you. You have to share a story. And the reason that I follow up story with pain and solution is because being vulnerable is what makes people say, oh my gosh, he's going through the same thing I went through. I think you can help me. And if you come up and you're doing, for lack of a better term, Tony Robbins is always on, he's always on power, he's got everything going, he's got everything good, but I failed to see where he's vulnerable. So he didn't attract me. I was more attracted to some other folks, Robin Sharma, for example. So I'm going to tell you two of my favorite things to do. One is use humor. And a lot of people use humor. Do you remember being in high school and you had to do your public speaking talk and you spent a day at the library looking up funny quotes and quips? So you could start your talk with a funny quote and quip. And I'm like, this is like, yeah, me too. All of us have done that. This is something that I found a lot of fun actually to play with. Study your comedians. I know some of them are hard to listen to for a long time, but study their pacing, study their charisma, study their control, study the fact that, did you see what just happened? I stopped talking, you leaned forward. Use tricks like that to get people to want to hear the next thing you're talking. There are lots, as you do acting, as you do, newscasting, people do that. As you're and I know you've seen this a million times, David, you're interviewing somebody who's really, really important to you, and they'll do that pause and reflect until you lean in, because that's what they want you to do, so that you could really hear what they're saying next. Use those types of tricks. That comes in really handy. It happens all the time. I use it all the time. The other thing that you do is when you're into sorry, Stephen.
Time, Stephen.
He says his last name is Horny. He has a lot of funny jokes. Let me tell you one of my favorites. How many of you know Ben Gay III? Do you know Ben Gay?
Huh. No.
He is he's the last living apprentice to Napoleon Hill. All right. Oh. So yeah, he's an incredible man. He's in California. He does a lot of things, with closing. He's always closing. But one of his favorite stories that he told me as he keynoted for one of my events was, Tony, he says, I was in line when I was a young kid, and I was getting a job in Los Angeles, California, and it was to sell the World Book Encyclopedia. That was the job that he was in. And there was people in line for the job. And he says, they called out my name, and the guy behind me starts laughing at me. And he says, your name is Ben Gay. And he starts laughing at him, and he turns around kind of a little pissy and says, so what's your name? And he goes, Zig Ziglar. How's yours? That was who was behind him in line, right?
That's awesome.
That is a true story. See, it doesn't have to be your own story, Stephen. It can also be other stories for people that are influential in our industry or just someone that really made an impression on you. Robin Sharma uses, for example, to talk about the best you can be, the most you can be, just put your whole heart in it by using a janitor at an airport in South Africa as an example. He says he was walking through the airport. He walked into the men's bathroom at the airport, and it was like sparkling. It was just amazingly clean. He was so impressed, and the janitor was standing by the door with a big smile from eye to eye because he could see that he had impressed someone. And that was the level of mentor that Robin Sharma says we should be looking for. People who do that, who are super proud in whatever they do. So that's why I started my podcast, The World Class Mentors, is because it's not so much that I wanted to hear about, what I did. I wanted to hear who it was that your mentor did and what they did to you. Because as I was going through my first book, The Act Two, Your Show Must Go On, it was a study on what boomers are doing with their second life, with Act Two. Because most of us either are not ready to retire. I don't even know what retire means. I'm going to be 69 here pretty soon. I'm very healthy. I'm very fine. I've got a lot of energy. I don't know what retirement means. And I think my kids would faint if I ever stopped working. So it's okay. But I do want to know how your mentors helped you. So Alma or Ed or Robert, if you had a mentor and and this is what I heard so often, grandmothers, coaches, high school principals, those were the people that changed their lives. Your mom, your dad, your big brother, those were the mentors. And what I wanted to know is, what did they do for you? How did they do that? So that boomers who weren't ready to retire, who felt that they had something more to give, could think in terms of, you can be a mentor. The number one question I would get from boomers when I was trying to promote that idea was, what do I do and how do I make money from it? So that's the kind of questions, those are the kinds of things that you can bring out to your public and they can share that. Now, when I say share your pain, it's because as you share your story, you show the vulnerability. Damien, I bet you didn't know that I was the poster child for H1N1 in Houston, Texas.
Oh,
I
wow.
brought it back from Japan. Isn't that great? I spent 37 days with intravenous steroids in the ICU, and they transferred me to a hospice 11 years ago.
Wow.
I lost my right lung, I lost my trachea, and I was, steroid-induced diabetes, blindness. I mean, I could tell you all kinds of fun things that I went through. And as I'm sitting in my bed, I figured out, okay, you have to learn how to walk, talk, breathe. I didn't know how to breathe anymore because I would run out of breath after one sentence. And yeah, that's a great story, Stephen. Your mom raised 9 kids. It's that drive, the resilience, the wanting to come back, the not wanting to give up, the not being a victim, that my vulnerability now just attracted maybe 2 or 3 folks in your audience that goes, man, if she can overcome that,
I
right?
was gonna say, wow. And look, you look beautiful. I mean, you're here, you're delivering, you're like, you would have never guessed that you were in hospice, right?
Oh yeah, they had sent me home, literally. So that's what I'm saying. That pain story also created the solution story, which gives your people hope that there is something better, that we can overcome it, that as Joel Osteen says, become a victor, not a victim, right? And I do have to give credit to my big sister. She passed a long time ago, and she passed before I had that experience. But I kept hearing in my ear, my big sister was the tomboy, the tough, rough girl, and I was the sissy girl. And every time that I would feel sorry for myself, I would literally hear her voice in my ear going, yeah, get over it. And every time I would hear that, I would like, okay, all right, leave me alone. Let me do some studying. I'll figure out how to breathe again. So there's my mentor, my sister, daring me to keep going, right? So now you heard the vulnerability. Now you heard the story. Now you heard the pain. Now you heard the solution. I didn't give up. I kept going and I started again. At the age of 57, I started again.
Well, let me interject here, because there are many that are viewing this right now that are starting again. They might have had the corporate 9 to 5 job for, they did everything they were supposed to. They went to college, they got the degree, they went and got the corporate job. They were 5 to 10 yards away from the finish line, of retirement, and maybe they lost that opportunity and now they're starting all over. Or, which is more popular, people do the Dolly Parton and they're like, I'm done with it. I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to make money. It's a restart. Many people that are on this right now from the ages of, I would say, 50 to 70 could be doing that very restart right now.
Well, and the other thing that most people were going through when I wrote that book was we were being laid off in the thousands, tens of thousands, per month that were being laid off, because honestly, I had to teach 5 people how to take over my job. I was the chief of staff of global IT for the SAP division of Hewlett Packard. We had 330 people under me that we took care of, that we handled the severe high level escalations. By the time a problem came to my team, Hewlett Packard was losing in the $1 million a minute because something happened wrong during the Christmas holidays, or somebody couldn't make a sale, or somebody couldn't get the thing to process. So we had minutes to fix it, or we were losing in the millions. And so the trauma was always there, the stress was always there, the anxiety was, the time limits was over there. And you know what I noticed is that no matter how many hours you put in during the day, you were never caught up. Just never. Every day was a whole new incident,
Call that the grind.
Exactly. So people were being laid off. We were too old and too expensive to stay. So I saw, and by the way, in the research on my book, I saw a lot of people a lot of corporations who took the government grant to keep employment in the US. And then they would have us, like I had to train 5 people to take over my job. 3 were in India and 2 were in, one was in Guadalajara and 1 was in Spain. So those 5 people took over my job, and I venture to guess that all 5 of them together didn't equal what my salary was. Right. So that's what was happening to the US back then.
It's still happening.
It's still happening. Right.
Pandemic, it's still happening. I have meetings with these folks. They're part of our community.
Yeah. And you know what? What's funny is I felt so angry and I felt so depressed, and I mean, I send out, I'm going to tell you honestly, 200 to 300 resumes. And I think I got maybe 2 interviews, and my husband, I think he finally got sick of me moping around. And he goes, baby. And I said, what? He says, this is a gift. And I'm like, what do you mean this is a gift, And he says, think about it. What would you do that you would do for free because you love doing it so much? And my mind immediately went back to producing the children's shows, the Good Morning America shows, the 5.5 hours a day of local origination programming that I had to produce while working at a tiny little cable television station in far Texas. Okay. And I had a blast. I mean, I was having the best time of my life producing great shows. And so when you said, how did she go from being a geek to going back into production? And then I was blessed by getting a great contract with Fremantle Media and Fremantle Media Latin America. So all of the game shows that you see in English, we actually produce them in Spanish as well. So Family Feud is Que Dice La Gente, what people say. Yeah, America's Top Model was Belleza Latina. And American Idol was Objetivo Fama, Objective Fame, right? So we had a great time. I also produced the Latin Grammys. And have just had a great time being me again.
Well, you know what's inspiring about your story, the start over. I mean, that was 12 years ago, right? That devastating time in your life. And what was your bounce back period? Was it a long period, or did you bounce back quick?
Well, I had to learn how to, I immersed myself into something that I called the 30-30. 30 days, 30 minutes a day, and I would listen to someone who inspired me. So it was at that time it was either Joyce, I forgot her last name, Joyce Meyer,
Write that down.
or
Actually.
yeah, or Joel Osteen, because I mean we were in Houston, right? I mean we're right there. Oh, and I learned about breathing from a Russian doctor on YouTube called oh my gosh, I can't remember. I'll remember his name, but he was teaching people how to breathe and to help them with asthma and you know all of the lung, the pulmonology, COPD and things like that. So I started doing his exercises and I started getting control of my breath again.
So break this down for me, the 30-30-30.
Yeah, the 30-30, and that was 30 days, 30 minutes a day, and as many, whoever you wanted to choose. I just had to concentrate on that. And then the other thing that I did
What was the 30-30? Because there's
the
30 days and 30
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes, 30 days.
Got it.
Guaranteed. Like the first thing you do when you wake up, 30 minutes, 30 days. Get yourself some inspiration, get yourself, you know, focused, get yourself ready. And then I also, my sister in my ear, I heard there's people that are much worse off than you, and they're doing something about it. So find out what they're doing. And she was absolutely right. She was a microbiologist, by the way. But I remember hearing people with AIDS and people with, you know, that are on chemo and stage 4 kind of stuff. And so she says, you're not that bad. So figure it out. So, you know what I did is I went through I did so much research on hospitals and what they were doing to help them. And I started just fixing my diet because I weighed 215 or 17 pounds at that time. And so I had to come back down to normal. So fixing my diet, fixing my breathing, learning one step at a time, the physical therapy to get off the wheelchair and start walking again. Because I had no muscles left, honestly. 40, 50 days in bed in a hospital is like you're spaghetti, right?
Oh yeah.
So that's what I did. So you know, that's kind of how I learned how to get back to normal. I had a goal. I had to come back.
And what, like, if you could share that goal.
The goal was, you're gonna laugh at me. The goal was walk 30 steps to the bathroom by yourself. That was a big goal.
So, I mean, you really had to just get back into living normal again. And then obviously you then started getting into the business world again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that story. It's very inspiring. I know for many that's on here. And so when did you start speaking on stage? Because I know I'm hearing that you were speaking, doing the technology, you know, and teaching people the computer classes. And that's kind of how you got the deal with the former president. I mean, so did you just continue speaking from there?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I figured, and you know, this is something I see a lot of boomers do. They feel like if they're going to become a coach or a mentor or a speaker, they've got to take certification classes. And they've got to do this. They've got to do that. So I actually Christine, it was called the swine flu, but it was actually H1N1. There was 26 cases in the whole state of Texas. I don't know how many came to the US, but I was very lucky that I didn't get H5N1 because there were 0 survivors of H5. Okay. H1, we had some survivors. So, and yes, that is COVID's mother. It's all SARS, yes. So anyway, get back over here. So I was looking for a mentor. I knew I had to have a mentor. You know, I had been listening to Toni, I had been listening to Robin Sharma, I had been listening to there was Eben Pagan. There were so many great speakers that I really liked, right? I started really immersing myself in the talks, in the TED Talks, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And I knew I wanted to do it, but I could see there was things that I had to finish fixing before I could get back on stage and do what I wanted to do and share stories and give others hope that they could do it too. So I set off on hitting as many, and this was, we were traveling back then, hitting as many I was a seminar junkie for a while. As a matter of fact, I went to Suzanne Evans, I went to Maria Andros, I went to Ted McGrath, I went to Jay Facette, I went to you know, a guy. I went to all these because I wanted to learn the methodology and the strategy that they were using to actually make money at this, right? And so I remember being at a Suzanne Evans event in Orlando, Florida. And I still hadn't picked a mentor. I didn't, it just didn't feel right. And when I say picking a mentor, you know what I mean. You're going to be spending 15, 20, 25, 30,000, 50,000. Some people charge 80,000. And I wasn't ready to dish out that kind of money for someone that I didn't feel like that's the one. So I remember being at that Orlando hotel, and I was sitting out in the couches outside of the big room, the meeting room, and Maria Andros, who's a gorgeous speaker who taught a lot about how to film. She walked out and she goes, "Toni, are you at another event?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "You're not allowed to go to one more event until you pick a mentor. No more." And I was like, she's absolutely right. I think I was spinning. And so many people do spin, yeah, spinning and spinning. Yeah, you're right, Kevin. So then Jay, our buddy Jay Facette was presenting at that event, and he had just finished, and he was walking out, like probably go to the bathroom or something. And I'm sitting on the couch, and he runs up, jumps over the couch, sits down. He doesn't know me from Eve, right? And he says, "Hello, my dear."
That's it.
That's it. And in 2.5 hours, he taught me more about this entire business than I had learned in the last 6 months. And I said, "Oh, that's it." I said, "Jay, you're it. I'm going to Calgary. I'm signing up for you. You are my mentor." And we've been friends since then. That was what, 8 years ago or something like that, 7 or 8 years ago. And that's who brought us together, was because he was doing an alumni summit, and I consider myself an alumni. So
Yeah, well, that's an awesome story. I didn't know that's how you met Jay. I happen to be voted in as the this last mastermind as the most helpful, most generous, most knowledgeable, willing to share, whatever. I was voted in, and so I get a whole day with Jay. And I don't know if you know this, but the last time they came to Cabo, they invited me, and it was about 20 people. I was voted in then that day too. So I have 2 days with Jay. So
you're gonna love it.
And I'll figure out how we're going to use here. But no, that's awesome. So that's the story. And so now, you went on to just crush it, selling on stage and teaching people how to sell from stage. So let's get back into some of that stuff. Let's get into that tactical stuff. So like someone says, okay, so I landed the gig. I have it now. I got to be there in, 30 days. They're going to let me talk about mobile apps on stage in front of 200 dentists. I've never done this in my life. I did what Damien said, just call these people. And so guess what? I landed one. Now what the hell am I going to do?
You capture them with your brilliance. No, here's what we do, guys. So I'm going to take you one step back. Damien, how much time have I got?
We got at least another hour. I mean, we'll just shy of it.
Okay, so let me give you the secret. This is the biggest secret I have. And if you guys like what I show you, I will give it to Damien, and he can do whatever he'd like to with it. This is the one major secret to every single great story, great movie, and great event that you've probably ever seen. And it's called the hero's journey. You know what this is. I see it in your face. You guys, this is how you create your story. You know what I just said? I told you to go intro, story, pain, solution, offer. All right. You're going to wow them with your ability to bring them in and become their friend. How do you do this? Every great story, and I'm not going to go through all 12 steps, but I will go through the first 4 or 5. All right. So, and this is something that we designed, my kids designed.
Helpful to everybody. I don't know if you know this, but if you just click on your mouse pad and you have your mouse on the screen, you can actually zoom this in. Even though Toni has it right where it is, you as an individual can zoom it in. I just want you to know that. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for saying that, because I can always do Control Plus and make it a little bigger. Does that help?
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay, all right. So if you notice, the top is the normal world, and then the bottom is the unknown world. So this is how this has been going on since the beginning of time. We are right now what's called the status quo. What you know, who you're familiar with, who you're married to, what your day looks like. That's what we live in right now, is our 12 o'clock, the status quo. Now, to go from there to the beginning of the story, you have somehow, you guys had a call to adventure. You had a decision to make, the red pill or the blue pill. Somehow you made a decision. Now think back, decision to go to college. Think back, decision to get married, decision to start a company, decision to move to Cabo. You had a call to adventure and you followed it. If you don't, you go back to status quo. It's okay, you're not ready yet. So the call to adventure is always step one. When what happens, the call to adventure is that you will meet a mentor and they will be there for you. So the mentor, for example, if we're talking about what's his name, Luke's lightsaber or whatever his name was. All right. Yeah, I have forgotten. Oh my gosh, I'm a terrible geek here. All right, so the call to adventure will deliver to you a mentor.
Skywalker, sorry.
Thank you, Skywalker, not lightsaber. Thank you. So he met his Obi-Wan Kenobi. We met. I met my Jay. You know, we met and as Kevin was saying, he's worked with a whole bunch of these mentors, including Kristen, who I know so well, and Suzanne, who I love, and Jay, who is wonderful, and Ted is doing great too in Los Angeles. So somebody's met their mentor, right? So that's the call to adventure. Here's the mentor. Now, what's happening is that you are creating a departure from the status quo. So your story goes on to the next step. So the departure is what happens after you're ready. For example, Luke didn't have a choice. They burned and killed his uncle and his aunt, and they burned his little village. He had to take off, right? You decided, okay, I'm going to sell all my property. I'm going to take off to Cabo. You made a departure, right? Then in order for you to really get good at this stuff, you've got to have your trials and your tests, because everybody goes through that. And that's the biggest learn that you can have. If you don't have friction, you're not going to have smoothness after. You've got to go through the rough stuff to get yourself better, to make yourself reach further, to give yourself some goals, to be there. The 30-30, for example, for me, you know, can I get off this wheelchair? Can I lose 100 pounds? Whatever it takes. And then the approach is what you learned after your approach to the new life. Now, 6 o'clock is always death and rebirth, because after you've gone through the first stages of your travel, of your journey, you will be faced with change. Death doesn't mean it's gone. It just means there's change, and you get to be born again at that point. So that's all I'm going to cover right now. But I do want to show you that is the basic story to every single movie out there that you've ever seen. If it's a good movie, if it's gotten awards, they are using Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Cool?
Beautiful.
All right. So let's start there. That's your story. That's how to have fun with it. And I mean, we're doing a lot really fast, but because that right there is the 3-hour sermon by itself. But this is the hero's journey and infographic. No, it is a workbook that is at the end of my book, but I would be happy to give it to Damien, and you're welcome to share my workbook with people. That is coming up in a new edition of the book, and we'll have it out by the middle of next year. So that is very good. Oh, did you just do ChatGPT on hero's journey? I love it. Good work there, Kevin. All right. So basically trying to figure out your focus, trying to get your story, trying to get what you're trying to say, understanding your journey, that's part of your story. So your strategy to go from there to where you need to be, is something that I'm very, very proud of, is what do we do on the advanced tips for speaking, for, creating a humor, for adapting. The strategy that we want you to have is something that can be broken down in as little as 5 steps, and you can just go from one to the other because you've practiced it so much. So again, numero uno is practice, practice, practice. You cannot go wrong if you practice. You've got the role of humor in speaking. I started giving you that strategy just a little bit. Understand the charisma points and the great way to be interviewed. And there's some little secrets about being interviewed that make you number one, a great guest. Number two, it helps the person who's trying to work with you, to pick you, to select you, know that they know you, like you, and trust you. And so And I almost hate saying that because I heard a young person the other day say that she didn't believe in the know, like, and trust. And I said, well, why do you say that? She says, because look at all the people that go to Walmart. They're not there because they like Sam Walton. I said, okay, that makes sense. All right. They don't know him, they don't trust him, they just know they're going to get a good deal if they go to Walmart. That's all there is to it. So sometimes your pricing is the way to do it, right? It's just wonderful. So I hope I'm not going
No,
around.
in fact, you made a point. Like,
Yeah.
the know, like, and trust. Well, there is no like and trust there. You know, like, and trust that brand. The
Right.
brand is way beyond Sam, because the brand is known for everything and super, super affordable and one on every corner. So, know, like, and trust the one in every city, right? But no, I think that's good that you point that out. It's like, yeah, there's no like and trust in brands. We're all creating brands. You guys are all serving brands when you're helping them with digital strategies and mobile applications. I mean, you're serving the brand.
That's exactly right. And so, storytelling is important. It's got its place. Building confidence through your story and your pain, and then really, really important, your solutions. Because the way you handle that pain is the way that you did it through your solutions, which basically are your segue to your offer. Does that make sense? Because I know, Damien, you got up 3 or 4 times during the event, and you went through each of those stories, you went each of those steps, and then when you finally talked about the apps that you create and the gift that you gave and all the things, that was basically your offer. I knew already that I wanted to work with you, because that you did it.
I passed the test.
Oh my gosh, more than passed the test. But that is kind of where we're coming from in terms of what we can do to help others understand their strengths. One of the things that I do, especially as a casting director, I've done a lot of casting. And as a matter of fact, I was in charge of finding the families from Texas to California for Family Feud. So I did a lot of casting in both English and Spanish for that show. And I've done a lot of casting for different movies and plays and things like that as well. So what I'm getting at is that when I see someone and I see what they could be, I like immediately I can zone in on their strengths. And then I can also tell them, you know what, you did this great, but don't do this again, because you disenfranchised half your audience when you said this. And he didn't even know he was saying it. So I mean, it's always a great idea to have someone that you could run your talk by before you get that, always. The other thing that I've noticed that's a good strategy is, I have a good friend of mine who is basically a healer, right? And she does energy work and things like that. And as a matter of fact, I know for a fact that Christian has one. I've seen many speakers have an energy person behind the stage, so that when they get off the stage, they cut the cords, they get them more energy, they get them focused, they make them relax a little bit. That comes in real handy. But if you're not at that stage where you've got someone, an energy worker behind the scenes, behind the stage, then understand how to breathe, how to refocus, how to recenter. Remember the old joke of the ballet dancers that every time they'd get anxiety full and stressful, they would go, where's my center? Where's my center? So that was it. Just stand there and go, where's my center? And then you start breathing again and take it easy. And you know what? Every single person there, every single speaker has gone through this. It's not, I've been through Jay's things, I've been through Iman's things, I've been through Speaking Empire with wonderful Dave Van Hughes and Michael, and I've seen so many great programs, great strategies, but it all comes to the one thing: are you confident in what you're saying? Do you feel comfortable that you've got a solution for most people that are there that can be, given to a majority of the people there? Have we already done our homework to understand who's going to be here and how we can help you? And what are you looking for in terms of value? So if you've got people in mind when you walk out there, you're not trying to show off, you're not trying to be the brightest person in the room, you're trying to let them know that you're there for them, they will accept you. And I have found that over and over again. And whether you're sitting on an interview chair at Good Morning America with a host, or whether you're delivering the news, it's the same thing. Make sure you make some eye contact. And I know it's so hard on Zoom because my camera is up there, right? And I did see something, Damien, that I'm going to buy. I saw it on Amazon, and it's a little like a little plastic sticky thing, and wherever you are, I could put it right in front of your face and I'd look like I was talking right at you the whole time. And I'm going to buy that because I don't know how else to get a camera to move. But I thought that was the best idea ever. So first of all, I love
that little dot, right? For us to talk to our virtual, we're all here physically, but we're still virtual, right? And but you know, when I'm looking, if I'm looking at Toni, I'm talking to Toni, I'm not looking at the camera. But if I'm looking at the camera, I'm talking to Toni. I'm not looking at Toni, so I'm not talking to Toni. So it's a little weird thing, but you know, and I think people are, because we live in a Zoom world now, people are more forgiving on that now. I think before it was really kind of like bad taste to be on video camera for like a video conference and not always be staring in the camera.
Right.
But now we've got all the camera views now, right? So your eyes are everywhere. So I think the world is a little more flexible with us on that. But I mean, we do live in this Zoom world. True. You know, I want that you mentioned something that's key, and it brought some memories back. So I want to bring this up for you. And that, so for our note takers on here, what are the things not to do? Like there's a long list. I could read off a long list of them because I did them all. Right. So what are some of the things for our note takers that want to jot down, whether you're in a room of 10 or 200 or even one-on-one? Let's talk about some things, what not to do for the note takers.
My number one pet peeve. If you are the host, you know, and David, you passed the test big time here. If you're the host and you've got a guest coming up, I don't care if it's a summit, whether it's online, whether it's on the stage, wherever it is. If you are the host and you're introducing a guest and you don't know anything about your guest, one of my pet peeves is do not say, oh, here's Damien. Hey, Damien, tell me a little bit about yourself. That just tells me I've been really lazy. You know what I'm saying? I hate that when people do that, because people are like, if I ask, you know, Jeff Blatz, if you're going to be my guest, Jeff, I want your short bio. I want to do a quick LinkedIn. I'm going to go figure out who you are so that when you get to my stage, I can edify you. And edification from the host carries a lot of power. Now and I know you know this, Damien, because if you're doing a stage to stage transfer, you know where I'm going, that you're transferring the power of being the go-to authority, credibility expert to your guest. And what you do is before they come on the stage, you have a conversation with them and say, do you want a handshake or a hug? Because that's how you want to transfer power. And you're allowing them to now be edified because you gave your power to that next person. So, you know, during COVID, it was like, yeah, knuckle bumps, good, bye, see you later. Okay. But I do that for all my stages. Do you want a handshake or do you want, you want a hug? Because you're going to be the star and I'm going to walk out. So I transfer the power. Transfer the power is very important. And I love the fact that you did the edification, you did the homework, you read the short bio, you even added a couple things that I thought people forgot.
George, but I mean, that's
So number one, transfer of power is good. Now there's a lot of studies. It's funny on NLP, it's neuro-linguistic programming. Of course, now it means natural language programming for AI people, but it's still NLP. What a lot of people like to do, and I've seen this with many speakers, is they will come up and they will do something called an open loop. An open loop is where you start your talk. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So you're shaking your head. An open loop is where you come in and you say, hey, y'all, this has been such a great, thank you so much for having me here. I'm going to, we're going to learn A, B, and C. But before we do that, I want to take you back just a couple of steps, or a couple of years. So you see what I did? I led in with what we wanted to talk about, but then I stopped it and said, we're going to come back to that after I do this. So the open loop is still there. In a good 30-minute talk, you should do about 3 open loops, because that way you can close the first thought, close the second thought, close the third thought, and you're done.
Toni, that brings back more memories. Boy, you're taking memory lane now. the best open looper I'd ever met is a man by the name of David Gilmour. I don't know if you know that name.
No.
Okay, so David Gilmour. So in my credit card processing days in like 96, 97, 98, I met all those guys from successcoaching.com, or Success Magazine, and Charles, anyway, not important. Let me stay focused. So what it is he would do these open loops, and he would do things that, I was just learning how to be a speaker at that moment. I was selling my product to his audience, but it was his audience for 3 days. And he didn't want this young punk to come screw up his audience for 3 days just because the corporate office said, this guy Damien's coming, he's selling merchant accounts, let him up on stage. So this guy, when he shook my hand, Tony, he shook my hand and then grabbed it and squeezed it and said, what are you here to sell? What are you here to do, boy? And I was just like, whoa, that was my first meeting of a speaker before I started getting trained by these guys and whatever. He was one of the first ones. I flew out to one of my first events, and I've got all my product, we're ready to go. And he goes, I got this handled, don't you worry. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, he's not gonna let me speak. He ripped the rug from me. No, he's got control of this audience of 80, maybe 120 people. We're on day 3 or 2, whatever it is. He's had them. No like trust. He's got them all. For me to go up there, that was going to be my job. It wouldn't have done as well by not even a fraction of what he will be able to do with that audience. The fact that he was willing to do that for me was incredible. But I watched him open loop. Now he's selling my stuff. He doesn't even know what my stuff does. But what he says is, you need to take credit cards. So he held on to that theme because that's a pretty easy theme to put a talk around. And everybody in that audience was convinced when he was done with it why they needed to get a machine on the way out. But I watched him open loops. He actually told me, he goes, you want to learn something, son? Later in some of the other events, he goes, want to learn something? You'll see when I say something that the entire audience is going to miss, but you're going to hear it. And he said it. And I heard it. And nobody flinched. He kept going. I know nobody comprehended what that was. It was like a little seed. When I started realizing that speakers can do that kind of stuff, I was like, whoa. And then the open loops that he closed an hour later or 45 minutes later. And everybody's like this the whole time waiting for that closed loop. The stuff that I learned, Tony, that's why this stuff fascinates me, which is why I wanted you on tonight. And real quick, just to check in with the audience, let us know in here if you have any questions at all for those of you that are here live. And, speaking is one of the biggest fears in life, right? Speaking is what Tony can probably explain this a lot better, but here's the thing. I just want you to know, because I want you to rewatch this. I want you to also learn from other speaker trainers, learn speaking talent, because it's communication. That's what we're really doing. When we say we're speaking, what are we doing? We're communicating. We're enrolling people in our solution. We want to be their total solution. So all the preparedness, knowing your product and practicing, all that's important, right? But even if it's just one-on-one, you need these strategies, right? You need to look them in the eye. You need to have done your homework. You need to, make sure that you're speaking to the benefits and not just the features of the app. There's things.
Absolutely.
Got to do that on stage. You can't feature everybody, boom, 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 boom on stage. My app does this. My app does that. No. What will this app do for you is what we do from stage, whether it's 200 people or one person in front of you. That's how we sell. This is all about communicating. This is so important for your career to own this, master this, and always continue to hone the craft. So give us some more. I'll give you two things that I say never do because I did them and I learned really quickly. And I want you some more of the not do's, right? So
all right. My pet peeve. Are you going to show us a not do?
And then I'm gonna let you go. I'm on stage. I have everybody there. It's like 500 people in the audience, and I'm so hyperactive. I'm a rubber bouncing ball. I've got no purpose on walking back and forth on the stage. There's no purpose of my movement, and I'm looking over everyone's head, every single person, because I think if I think back 25 years ago, 30 years ago, I might have had a little bit of, fear that if I look at them, I just looked over everybody's head because that was easy. When I watched that video and I got pounded in the head by Marshall Silver, he goes, yeah, absolutely. Because he was one of the speakers at the event. He goes, because eventually they let me up on stage to do this stuff, instead of them saying, let me just take care of the son. They eventually let me up on stage to do this stuff. So Marshall pulls me aside and says, kid, you need a lot of work. You need to slow the hell down. And why are you walking back and forth on stage? Is there a reason to go here to here to here? You're like a ping pong ball. He goes, and I never seen anybody in the
I
eyes.
was going to say that one because that would drive
So
me.
are you trying to size up all their haircuts? Because you weren't looking at anybody in the eyes. And I was like, man, he was rough on me. He became one of my mentors and speaker trainers. But so let's talk about some more of those pet peeves, some more of those things that we can prevent them from doing.
Well, part of my next level is we have 3 retreats: the get speaker ready, the get stage ready, and I actually get a stage in Vegas, and they actually go do that on the stage. And as I'm looking through the videos, I'm like, oh my God, I told him not to do this, and every line is punctuated by his going the other way. And I was seasick by after 5 minutes, much less 15. So you're right. That is the worst thing to do. Ground yourself, but just ground yourself and let your hands. My husband used to say, "Don't talk with your hands full," because it's better to do this than to be walking from one side of the stage to the other.
Humor, I'd walk on stage, Toni, with my credit card processing terminal. They're square little boxes, right? And one day in New Jersey, it was New Jersey or New York, I'm gonna say New Jersey. It was like a bowling alley room. You ever been in one of those rooms where there might be 130 people, but it's like a bowling alley, so it's really hard to connect with people in the back audience.
In Texas, we call those mobile homes.
Yeah, this was like a six row of mobile homes. So I get up there on stage and I go, how many of you have one of these? And it's because I wanted to show my product, get everybody to let me know whether they had it or not. And the thing released from my hand, flew into the wall and exploded everywhere. And that's how I started. And that was not on purpose. That was not on purpose. I literally was like, whoa, well, that didn't work. But anyway, everybody laughed.
Yeah.
Everybody laughed. And I laughed at myself, did a joke or two about myself. And I said, when you buy this today, I promise I won't give you that one. That killed everybody. Everybody loved it. I closed like 90% of that room. It was an absolute, if they didn't have, they bought. If they already had, was the only reason they didn't buy. And it was all because, I guess, of a stupid thing that was an accident that turned into a lot of humor. So I guess you're right. I gained the respect of this young kid at the time, gained the respect of all these adults in New Jersey and New York, this kid from West Coast, because he smashed his machine on the wall and joked on himself. The point lesson is humor can really win over a crowd.
Oh, and sometimes, okay, so I have a saying that I usually use it, and I was raised in movie theaters with my mom. She had 2 in Spanish and a drive-in and 2 in English, right? And so I relate to life and every problem in life being solved in 90 minutes. But more important than that, I relate to a lot of the sayings. So in my life, I always wanted to enter a room and look like Lauren Bacall, but no matter what I did, I was Lucille Ball. I mean, I would trip, my heel would break. I did this in front of 5,000 to 7,000 people. I was working for Disney in retail, and I was coming up on the stage with Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, and Pluto, and we were doing a whole show, and my heel got stuck on the grate on the stage and broke off. And I was limping to do the whole dance routine. It was Mickey's disco, so I had to do a dance with Goofy, and I'm shoeless. So the show must go on. But I find that those kind of things, if you handle it well, they're not a destruction. They really are a plus. And
so let's get to Patty's question. Patty's so good tonight. When we are prospecting on Loom or Zoom, any one-on-one secrets?
You're prospecting on Loom or Zoom.
So in other words, because we're talking about a lot of one-to-many, but what are some good one-on-one secrets that that we can teach?
Number 1, get them to talk. Ask them, be sincere. You know what? I equate that, and I haven't done this in a long time, but I equate it to a date. The secret to getting someone to like you is to be genuinely interested in that person. You know, the secret to having someone talk to you and feel comfortable with you is the understanding of, okay, so this is, I want to hear about your problem. I want to hear about, one of my favorite questions when I'm doing a one-on-one is what challenges are you faced with right now? You know, and then I can tell whether or not we have a solution or not. And if I don't have one, I'm going to recommend one of my JV or affiliates that has a better solution than I. But you can't be everything to everybody, but knowing who you are, Elena, if you've got 3 or 4 coaches that you absolutely adore and you want to refer them because they don't do what you do, that has more power in this conversation than you trying to be the one all do all for all. So the honesty is there. And, you know, we started off by talking about the fun stuff, but you notice that when you asked me what I wanted you to ask me was about gossip. All right. Gossip is normally seen as this horrible thing to do, right? Because we did it in high school, we did it in college, you did it in sorority, you did it in fraternity. But think of this, gossip done well for the good is probably one of the strongest things you'll ever know. For me to go to Elizabeth Fox, and I'm going to say, Elizabeth, I know this gentleman who does mobile apps, and I got to tell you, man, he was the life of the party. He was just absolutely brilliant. And when he delivered his thing, I think he's got a solution for both you and me. I just gossiped about you. It doesn't have to be bad. But that to me, when someone is that honest with me, who sincerely wants to help me with my challenge and my business and the growth, you know, I speak to a lot of people that don't have $15,000. So you know what? I've got, let's move it back. Maybe we can do something for 2,000 or 500 or, you know, whatever it is. And if I can't help them at all, then I know other people who will.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. You're basically delivering value.
Yeah.
And so you're going to genuinely care about them. We always talk about like asking all the questions to, you know, make it clear that you're not going to give them a one size fits all. You're going to custom tailor your solution to their needs and desires, right? And so asking good questions is key to that as well.
Yeah, that's the biggest one-on-one secrets, because that's when they know that you're listening to them. And if you really do, I can't tell you how many times people try to get me on calls and immediately start selling me their $700 a month program. And I'm like, I don't know that I want your $700 a month or your $2,000 a month, but because they haven't defined it, they haven't established the credibility or the permission from me to go into my budget. I haven't. We're not there yet. What's the old adage? You're not going to marry me on the first date.
Right. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Me? Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Keyword ever. So think about it for a second.
No, it's my dad.
Okay.
My dad died when I was 19. I was daddy's girl. He was 58 years old, and he taught me. He used to own a farmer's insurance agency in Mission, Texas. So for those of you who are football fans, Mission, Texas is Tom Landry's hometown.
Okay.
And his daddy was our fire chief. And so my dad said, when you're in front of farm workers, working and dealing with farm workers and selling them insurance, you talk like a farm worker. You become a farm worker. You understand who they are and what they need. When you talk in front of presidents and executives, then you talk like a president and an executive, and you learn who they are and what they need. Same exact story, but basically be a chameleon. That was the best advice I think he ever gave me, and who would have known it would come to pass, right?
So my version of that was Tom Hopkins. So Tom Hopkins was my mentor. He's still living. He was my mentor, and I would go door to door to all these different businesses, and they were all different ages, different races, different everything, right? And he gave me the chameleon story, you know, because I think it was because I was like really high strung and really loud and really whatever. He goes, when you're sitting with an older lady, you need to bring it way down and you need to be like that older lady. When I started doing that, I started selling a lot. Like I basically mirrored everyone I didn't, if I was in front of somebody that was Chinese, I didn't start speaking to them in Mandarin. That's not what I mean, but I literally tried to be a mirror of them. If they were high pitched, high fast, I was high pitched and fast. If they were slow and low, I was slow and low. So that's very good advice, Toni. That's very good advice, because when I got that advice, it changed everything. Similar version of that advice. All right, next lightning round. What is a book other than your own? Because we're going to share. By the way, what is the name of your book? I want Derek to put it in here.
No, it's okay. I'm rewriting it. I'm taking it off KDP and coming back on. Do not worry. When it comes back on, it'll be Act 2, Your Show Must Go On.
Okay, cool. Act 2, Your Show Must Go On. Yeah. You can see that in the show notes if you're watching this on YouTube. All right. So a book that you would recommend to this group and why?
It's very near and dear to me. And let me tell you why. Over the last 5 years, I was lucky enough to take care of my mom, and she passed. And I was lucky enough to take care of my little brother, and he passed in April of 2020. And I was lucky enough to take care of my husband, and he passed in January of 2020.
Oh, sorry, Toni.
So the book that made the biggest difference to all of us was called Chasing Daylight. And I need to tell you that this book is absolutely amazing. It is written by the ex-CEO, thank you, Stephen. It's written by the ex-CEO of KPMG worldwide. He was out playing golf with his buddies one day, hits the golf ball goes off to the left. He sees it going straight. His friends are laughing at him, and he's like, what's the problem? And he says, your ball's over there. He goes, no, it's not. And then he ended up having 3 tumors, inoperable tumors in his brain, and they gave him exactly 90 days to live. And what he did from his CEO mentality, this is for every man in this room. What he did was he took the 3 circles, and he said, in the first 30 days, I'm going to do all my friends. I'm going to say goodbye to my friends. The second is my intimate inner circle. And the third, the last 30 days, is just me and my family. And he said goodbye to everyone. And he walks you through that executive level planning of how he's leaving this earth. Never seen anything so spectacular in my life. It was just absolutely amazing. Wow. That I recommend it for everyone, just to put things in perspective.
Wow. Thank you for that. All right, next, that was a heavy one. Next on the lightning round, what would be a tool, a hack, a resource, one other than your own, that you would recommend to this group, and why?
You guys, some of you are gonna throw oranges and tomatoes at me, but you guys, let's go play on OpenAI, because you better be ready. There's a lot going on ChatGPT. There's a lot going on. There's so many apps. There's so many things happening, good or bad. And David, you heard me discuss some of the bad, but good is what this thing has done for so many people. I mean, granted, keep it in its place. It is a way to take care of writer's block. It is a way to speak with a client about, okay, what do you want? Create a script for their video. You know, it is a way to write a screenplay if you want one. But it's all, I consider it just a kind of a prompt, literally a prompt for you to get your work done faster. Yeah, amazed.
I mean, for you to consume material, you can do full-on summaries of like Atlas Shrugged. You know,
oh my God, yes.
I mean, you want to get through very dense books, use OpenAI, use ChatGPT. It'll help you. No, that's a very good tool. We've been recommending that. Huh?
They're the cliff notes for our century.
Right, exactly. Just it's pretty amazing what we've already been able to do in our company, and we're doing a lot of teaching within the community on that. So really good recommendation there. All right, any more questions we have before we bring our show to an end? Was on 4-hour design with AI class today. Yeah, AI.
Oh, I love that, Patty. Yeah. Yeah. So the design is a text to image, and we've been using Midjourney a bunch. There's a new one that just came out that allows you to take any video on YouTube, run it through, and it summarizes the video for you. So, and it doesn't have to be on YouTube, just any video, and it just watches it for you. And I've got about 480 interviews from my week of kindness and gratitude, my summit. So I've been wanting to turn those into, summaries of the best of, to create a new book, because that's what summits are for, right? So yeah, Stephen, AI is a tool, but the app that he asked me to pick an app, and I picked ChatGPT. Okay.
All
Oh,
right.
I love Canva. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I saw that Canva now has a text to image option. I thought that was cool.
So AI is obviously moving super fast, right? And like there was tools that we were talking about on this show 6 months ago that there's already better tools that have come out. Like it's just unbelievable how wicked fast everything's moving, right? I mean, we're starting to double down in a number of areas. Funny story, I'm out here in Mexico. By the way, are you Mexican? What's your ethnicity?
My mother was born in Chihuahua, Mexico, which is why I'm always cold, I think.
Yeah,
I'm the old lady that wears the turtlenecks all the time because the air condition makes me shiver.
I figured you were Mexican. So my sister from another mother, right? I'm Mexican, but I'm real latecomer on Spanish. Of course, I speak Spanish down here now. I mean, and I've been speaking Spanish for maybe the last 20 years. Actually, once I turned 18 and I could go over the border to be able to drink, because I couldn't drink in California, right? Then I started learning the Spanglish, and then before you know it, here I am living here.
So I do need to tell you that my father's family was the Munoz Villarreal family, and they actually arrived to a 25,000 acre Spanish land grant in South Texas in the 1600s.
Oh, wow.
So that's both
That's
sides of my family.
right there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I just did a video with a new tool. Actually, Kevin Davis, who was on here earlier, did one for me, and it was me speaking in Spanish. And I mean, I speak Spanish, but not that good. And I was sharing it with, it was literally, it wasn't even me. It was a picture of me with the lips moving the whole bit.
Right.
And it was a full-on speech in Spanish. And I showed one of my Spanish buddies here.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you know Spanish, but not like that. I was like, that's some of the new stuff that we're looking into, as well as how can we go hit other markets. You know what it would take to be able to hit other markets like that. Now I don't have to contract with partners to hit other markets. It can be me in different languages. It's wild what's happening now with all this stuff.
Right. Let me see if I've got this open. I wanted to show you this.
Okay.
Yeah, so you know me, I do a little research on the State of the Union kind of thing. So you guys, just so that you know, and this is really good because it's I did this for course creators, but I want you to see what's happening worldwide. The global AI in education market, and this is, look what MEA is doing.
Let me get a for that.
The immigrants, can you see that? Let me put it up. Hello, there it goes. You see full screen now?
Yep.
All right, so this was 2018, 209 million. We had, and this is the countries, right? Asia Pacific and North America, and then Europe, and then the MEA is over here in the blue. We've gone from 219 million to 312 million, but look what happened between 2018 and 2022. We 4 times the amount of global AI in education, 802 million. Especially growth, you were seeing the big growth.
And we're knocking on 2024. That
Exactly.
graph must be like radically different now. It's probably gone.
Exactly. And I wanted to show you this one. So the market share, learning platforms are here, the LMSs, the learning management systems. And then you've got the 15% smart content, which is growing exponentially. This is the intelligent tutoring systems. And this is your fraud and risk management. And then I think this is the last one I'll share with you. This one's, actually, no. This was 2016 to 2021, the growth in learners. This is registered learners, but more important, this is the enrollments. And this is what happened. So yeah, between then and now, it's just growing exponentially. And just to give you an idea, do you see where it says, I'm trying to move our camera, the market value of global statistics is $400 billion in 2022. They estimated that in 10 years, we were going to hit 1 trillion when I got this chart. That's been compressed to the market value of e-learning and AI learning in 2025 will exceed $1 trillion.
Yeah,
So
and
it
that
compressed it by 7 years.
acceleration is really wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on.
No one's ever seen anything like it, right? Like I watched the internet be born, and I watched it, have the people go through the adoption curve. I've never seen something move nobody has. Like this is unprecedented what's going on right now. And I'm excited to be a part of it. So I know you are too.
I'm having fun with it. I really am.
Toni,